34, and we are going to call the College Senate to order. We are not quite at quorum yet. We're waiting for 4 more voting members, so we may have to shift some things around on the agenda. If you have not signed in yet, please sign in so that we have an accurate count. So this is our first meeting of the spring 2019 semester. And there's a few things that we are going to keep from the previous semester. So as you notice, we are signing in for attendance, and you did not pick up a clicker. We are going to keep that as is from now on. No more clickers. The membership has grown, and we are out of clickers to begin with. They are also a very large technical super fun activity for Erica and I to get together prior to the vote. And then it also kind of eliminates the spontaneity of the College Senate. So in the past, we always had to type it in, get all the technology ready so that we could vote. So now we can actually take votes and motions from the floor. So it's going to make our discussions a little bit more meaningful and a little bit more fluid. So that is what we're going to be going with from now on. And last semester we reviewed this. There are copies up there. We handed out copies in December as well. But a quick little review on how to vote via Robert's Rules. So we have options. If you ask for a motion or you ask for a vote, you can ask for any of these 6 methods, whatever your preference. For anything that we know about ahead of time, we will be doing a voice vote, so yay or nay or abstentions. If you do not think the vote is what I call, you can always ask for the room to stand, and I can count them that way as well. So we have a lot of different options for you. But the 2 different motions that we have on the agenda today will be yay or nay. And any, thank you. I'm like, all right, I think we, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we might be at quorum. 1, 2, 3. I think we're good. All right. So, yay. We have a couple things we need to vote for today. So, so that's our little review on Robert's Rules of Order. I also want to thank Len Lenahan, the chair of our Board of Trustees, who's here in attendance today. He actually comes quite often, so that's very nice. Thank you for joining us. And with that, I also, with the snow days and things that have happened, we know that the schedule and our teaching and our regular operations have been impacted a little bit with all the weather. But I do want to apologize to the College Senate and the college community because I did not attend the Board of Trustees meeting this past week. As we know, it was originally scheduled at the end of January, but it was rescheduled to last Thursday, but I was not notified, so I was not there. But I believe we've rectified it since then. I've been in contact, and I am now a part of an email distribution list that I didn't realize existed, but now I'm on it so that we will make sure that I will always be notified if there's any changes so that I won't, poor Len won't be asking where I am and not have an answer. So I was home. I didn't know. So I'm sorry. So with that, Dr. Hukoi is unable to be here today. Let me just switch to the agenda quickly. So in his place, we are going to welcome our new provost, Douglas Scheit, to come up and give the welcome for us today. Whatever your preference.
I'm not sure I have a report from President Hukoi. Do you remember briefing on specific issues? I don't think he gave me any specific things that he wanted me to report to you, but I do want to say welcome, and I'm happy to be here. And I've been in this room once before, although in a much more nerve-wracking situation. So the semester has begun, and several a good deal of time ago. We are in a very busy time of budget setting for the next budget year that has just started under Penny Howard's direction. And in addition, we are hosting the Workday Student Consulting Team this week. So it's a crazy busy time for those folks who are involved in either of those processes, planning going forward. And I just met with the Middle States group with regard to planning those processes in terms of monitoring report, and immediately upon completing that, we'll be moving into self-study for the next go-round. In terms of, I'd like to just take the opportunity to introduce myself to those of you who have not had a chance to meet me or watch my viral video on YouTube. Doug Scheidt, new provost, happy to have started here on New Year's Eve. Am learning a lot about a big institution that's divided on 3 campuses, which makes it a little sluggish for me to meet everyone. Currently, I'm spending, except for when interrupted by other things, Tuesday mornings at, my phone tells me where I'm supposed to be, Tuesday mornings at South and Friday mornings at City. In a place. Look for me getting coffee usually. At City, I have a space to land in 45 Oak, room 041, although it's hard to find, so I'll be out and around. Best, or in Penny's office, right? I've been landing in Penny's office or getting coffee. And at City, I think it's 4219, or not City, that's South, 4219, and also getting coffee. So watch for me there. But also, if I'm there, I'm going to try to schedule the meetings of people that I do regularly meet with there, if that's their home campus. But also, if you're looking to meet with me, contact the provost's office and reserve some of my time. If I'm there, the reason I'm driving to the different campuses is to meet people, and that is everyone. So any opportunity I have that I can squeeze in amongst fixed meetings to get to know more folks of SUNY Erie, that's going to be helpful for me to do my job. I actually bumped into the dental lab tech folks in the hallway. I was getting coffee, and found out important and interesting things about their enrollment and recruitment that will inform our work going forward. So each of those conversations is not necessarily not work. In fact, I remind myself when I'm getting up and looking to meet with people that, in fact, that is the important work that I need to do. And just as an overarching bumper sticker that you will hear these themes coming from me frequently, a whole approach that I have is that every single thing that we do, I mentioned at convocation, from my vantage point, the aggregate of what I see are those numbers that are around enrollment, retention, graduation, and I'm using outplacement because it makes an acronym, and that's important. So in terms of overarching, all of our work aggregates to enrolling students, retaining them, graduating them, and placing them in employment or transfer. And conceptually, that means that everything that we do, formally and informally, structured in classes or in out of class, just conversation with students, are efforts designed to move students through that process. And that's a really helpful thing to keep in mind in terms of at every step of the way, whether it's you're teaching an awesome lecture or you're helping a law student in the hallway, or me, find something that they're looking for, you are in fact helping move folks through that process. And that's kind of a culture of student-centeredness that I think is really important and actually will aggregate forward into those enrollment and retention and graduation numbers, because students can have many challenges, not the least of which is perhaps finding what they need, especially if they're bumping into one of their barriers. And I think that's in an overarching, my last point here is overarching all of that work. I believe that what can be very important in moving those numbers is a culture of abiding concern for each student's success. And if we can grow that across the college, that will move those numbers, which under all of those numbers are individual people and their lives that we're trying to create and give them a good life, right? That's the big picture of what we're doing. So that's my impersonation of President Hakoy, but communicating the message that I think he and I share in terms of trying to lead, and I'm looking forward to meeting all of you on campuses.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move into old business, and I did not include this on the agenda, but we need to accept the minutes from our December meeting. Can I have a motion, please? John, thank you. A second? Derek? Is there any additions, discussion, changes from the minutes? Okay. So with no discussion, I'm going to accept the minutes from our December meeting. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask Joanne Komarauer and Jim Barrell to give an update on academic standards. I think we're going to have dueling microphones.
I'll let Joanne start.
All right.
Hi, everybody. We met last week for academic standards, just a couple outcomes of that meeting. We have, it's like 1,037 students on probation this semester. That we currently have students on probation 1 and probation 2, meaning that we have some students that, because of their GPA, ended up on probation for a second semester. So these are under the new guidelines that we established. What we spent a lot of the meeting talking about was the work that the counseling unit is doing under the direction of Andy Annecy and Steve Smith. They're working with the Starfish team to build success plans for every student that's on probation. And so that's kind of new. There's a commitment to working with these probationary students. Success plans have been built in Starfish, and the students are going to be required to meet with an academic counselor or one of those counselors during this semester. Do you want to add anything to that, Jim?
Yeah, a lot. This is an entirely brand new system that, if you remember, we brought to this group last spring. It all started after the spring 18 semester. We initiated a new academic standards policy. Students that were placed on probation were on probation for fall 18, and then after fall 18, which is now spring 19, we have a new probation 1 and probation 2. What's interesting about this group, this probation 1 group, and I don't have the numbers, I'm not sure exactly how many are on probation 1. It's about 1,100 or something like that, I'm not sure. This is the first clean group of probation 1 students that we have. So what that means is this is the first time they were on probation, put on probation based on their previous semester QPA. So that's very interesting to me. And some of these people might be first semester, first year college students. So we're actually looking at this, where in the past, the groups covered a lot of people that would have been dismissed before this time. So you have to understand that. What's going to happen after this semester is we're going to have our first dismissal period after spring 19. First group of people that will be dismissed, and we're hoping that numbers drop considerably from what we've had in the past. And we're starting to put all of our efforts into retaining students that are here, and that's what Joanna's been doing tirelessly, putting together with counselors, trying to put our efforts into retaining the students while they're here from probation 1 to probation 2, instead of worrying about them having to appeal to come back after we already dismissed them. So a lot of effort has gone into retaining the students. We'll know more as time goes on if we start collecting the data and looking to see how successful we were. I know there was a lot of, there was some success, maybe a couple hundred students that came off probation in the fall. Joanne?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
147 or something.
147. Mm-hmm. So that's very encouraging. Not that we're taking any credit for anything, but we're going to monitor stuff like that. One final piece, because we're not done with this, beginning sometime in spring 19, but before registration, we're going to be doing something totally new, and we're going to actually evoke registration restrictions. That will be a big deal. So you will know that people that are on probation will not be able to register early, not go through WebAdvisor. So we're working with DataTel, and as you know, they're switching over to Workday, so we have to rebuild this into DataTel, and when we flip the switch, they will have probation holds put on them. So if they do not complete the academic recovery plans with the counselors, they will not be able to register. And only when they do that, they will be given permission to register. And we're trying to put some teeth in this to force them to go through and do something in terms of trying to improve themselves academically. If we don't do that, then they will be allowed to register over and over again. There's nothing we can do about it. So this is the first time. We're not sure we were able to do it. We're working on getting this registration restriction implemented beginning this springtime. I think that's it.
Just a couple other things. Information will be sent out this week through the academic deans to the academic departments with a list of their students that are currently on probation. We're also sending an email draft that we want you guys to send out to your students if possible, and a checklist that you can use to like work with these probation students, just trying to get the departments to work kind of hands-on with their probationary students. So I'm just getting that information out to the deans today. And so you'll see that information coming to you guys as department chairs. And the last thing is Fresh Start, is a program where it's an academic forgiveness program where students who maybe were dismissed years before can come back and get their grades teed off so that their GPA is not affected. And we are looking at that policy and having a meeting in a couple weeks looking to update that policy. If you have any interest in that, you can let me know. I think that's it for me. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask if, with this probation program, if you're working with the Student Services Office for those students that have perhaps disabilities or learning issues. I know I've had some challenges with students there and the communication that's going on, and I know a lot of times they're the ones that might end up on probation. Mm-hmm. And I just want to know if you're actually working with them too on this, because I think they can sometimes be very closely involved.
It's a good point. They're not one of they didn't receive, so what we did is we took counselors and mentors from across the college from various departments, and they got a cohort of probation students to work with. The SAC counselors did not, the Student Access Center counselors did not get a caseload. I think we have shared the information with them, but I'm gonna check and see if at least they know who their students are that are on probation. So I'm going to say no, we have not, they are not managing a caseload. I don't know, Steve, do you want to comment on that, of like why, or any thoughts on, yeah. So at this point, they were not given a cohort to work with. It's not a bad idea. I'll make sure they're informed though. I'll take that away from this. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Any other questions? Oh, Pam? You need to talk on the microphone. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's been my experience that those on probation usually wait till add drop week to add classes. So I feel like there might be a big line waiting to see a counselor to fill out that paperwork or to allow them to register. So is that going to be addressed?
Well, you're right, because we had numbers, we had data and lists of the students that were registered that were on probation. It changed so dramatically after drop add. So you're right, they do come late. And it is going to be tough. The only thing we could do is we're going to be telling them multiple times that they have to see a counselor before they'll be able to register. So I don't know.
I do believe we're going to have a deadline date. We're going to start drawing hard lines in the sand so that person can't walk in the day before classes and register for courses if they've not done the thing. Or not even a weekend. That we're trying to eliminate all that. You know, I don't have that date yet because we haven't worked on a date for summer, but my intention is there's going to be a date in August. If you've not completed that academic recovery work with the counselors, you won't be able to register for fall. And then you're going to, again, it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of, I don't know the word a lot. There's going to be students that say, oh, I didn't get my email. I get it. Then they're going to have to go non-matric. They're going to have to do whatever they got to do, but they're not. We're talking about matriculation here with dismissal and probation. Understand that. Anyone can take courses non-matric, and we're not even talking about financial aid, because our plan is to be above and beyond financial aid. You need to understand that too. So we're not guaranteeing financial aid. And a great portion of the time, some of these students, as they go through probation, will have lost financial aid. We're still allowing them to come back. They may have to pay out of pocket or go non-matric. So we're talking about that process. I plan to have some type of deadline date so we don't have a backlog at the beginning of that first week.
Yes.
Why?
Pardon?
Why? We're traditionally a school that registers late. Why are we setting a deadline date?
For students that are on probation,
Yeah.
we're going to force them to seek help. Why would we let a student who's on probation for now 3 semesters in a row allow them to register for courses without doing any remediation?
So is that the plan, 3 semesters in a row?
That would be
Yeah.
3 semesters in a row.
Before you have to see a counselor?
They would have to see a counselor before they could register.
Okay, I'm a bit concerned about the fresh start. You said you're going to take a look at that.
2 separate issues.
Yeah.
Two separate
understand.
issues.
I understand.
Yeah, okay.
Why?
Why are we
Why are we
looking at
taking
fresh start?
another look at fresh start?
We
Because
actually-
Fresh Start is a board of trustees policy that was built in. It takes for students that have been out of school for 5 years, that's a policy we can't change. And that doesn't apply to current students that are on probation because they don't fit into that system. But what's been also going on in the last several years is there's been teeing off of grades. I don't know where it came from, Joanna, I don't know where that came from. That's not a policy either that we can find. So we're eliminating that policy. We're not letting that happen anymore, as far as I know. And we're working on the Fresh Start policy to build, maybe we talked about doing something in 3 years to accommodate those students that will have been dismissed or been out for 2, 3 years if they want to come back. Now, understand it at this. What we're talking about when we talk about probation, dismissal, and especially with dismissal, we're talking about dismissing from matriculation, meaning we will never, ever not allow a student to come to ECC. They may have to come part-time. And so we're going to force that, but to be matriculated an issue. I will also state this too. If someone's QPA is so bad after 3 semesters that they're not doing remediation, there is no way they can graduate. Their numbers are so poor that they will never be able to graduate with that 2.0. So we've kind of looked at all of that. So why would we continue to spin our wheels and allow them to take courses without having some type of counseling session? And what we're trying to do is force the one-on-one meeting with a counselor, because a great portion of time these students will go on and register over and over again, semester by semester, and never once meet with an advisor or a counselor. So we're trying to force the issue.
Thank you, Jim. Joanne?
I just want to make one comment about Fresh Start. We're actually trying to make it a little more liberal for students. Right now, they have to wait 5 years. We're going to propose 3. So it's actually a little easier. We looked at other colleges and what they were doing, and our 5-year requirement is more than most colleges. We found many had 3, so that's what we're going to propose when we look at it. So we're trying to make it a little more liberal, actually, for students to come back in and get a fresh start.
Thank you, Joanne. Greg?
I was here at the beginning of Fresh Start. I know exactly what it is. I know what teeing off is. To me, it's 2 different things.
Yeah, it is.
If somebody, yeah, it is?
Yeah,
You
it
agree?
is.
Okay. So if somebody comes back to school and they were in criminal justice and they're out of school for a certain number of years, they can come back to criminal justice and tee off those old bad grades. But what if they're in criminal justice and then they want to come into construction management?
Well, that's the
So
policy.
the practice has been, we tee off the credits that don't belong to construction management.
It's not what we found is that it's a kind of an old policy. It's not used by most departments. It's not encouraged. The last update on that form is like 1986, and I'm not even kidding. It's an old practice that is under question now, that teeing off. And it's under question about why we were ever like allowed to do that. And should we be doing that?
I run into it all the time.
Greg, you have to be recognized by the chair. We're not having an argument with Joanne and Jim today.
My turn.
This will be our last comment.
Okay. It applies to my own case. When I got out of high school, I went to UB. I didn't like the big, huge classes. I dropped out, figured I'd be an auto mechanic. I worked for 2 years as an auto mechanic and thought, I don't want to be an auto mechanic. So that's when I started back to school. So I think if we're gonna give these kids a chance, We should kind of, I mean, I just don't like the word force.
Yeah, I'm with you.
If they want to come back to school and they know what they want to be now they're coming and they have an idea what they want to do. I think it applies to a lot of them. They come to school out of high school and they try something and they said, well, jobs aren't that good in that field. I want to try this.
Mm-hmm.
They have to retain those old grades when they dropped out and took a bunch of Fs.
Could I comment on back?
Yes.
Greg, I'd like to have you participate in the discussion on this, because academic forgiveness programs, they're pretty prevalent at every school, and every school has different academic forgiveness programs. That teeing off has never been a policy, but if we're going to have it, we need to have it in the policy. So if you have interest in this, I'll send you the meeting invite and come and kind of share your thoughts on why we should have them. And yeah, I think.
Perfect. Thank you, Joanne. And I want to just piggyback off of that the Academic Standards Committee is accepting Senate appointments to that committee, and they are looking for faculty to participate meaningful in this committee. So if this conversation is very interesting to you and you have a lot to say about it, or you have ideas, or any other piece of discussion that we've just been shared with by Jim and Joanne, please email me, and we'll talk about getting you a Senate appointment to this committee. Jim, you wanted one more comment?
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Doug?
Just a quick question. Can you go over the probation real quick of just what the process is currently, or just get me information on where to go to find that?
We have it on the Senate site in the spring semester, but since we are discussing it today, when I send out my email on Thursday, I will make sure that I attach it. So that's a good reminder, so thank you. So I will include that for everybody with my update later this week, as I write myself a note right now. All right, so Michael Rio, governance.
This is just an announcement that the election cycle for 2019 will open on March 1st. Information will be sent through @SUNY, or @SUNY Erie, the former ECC Today site, and all details will be provided at that time.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. And with that, if you are a senator and your term is going to be up at the end of this spring semester, we will reach out to you to inform you that your term is up, and then we will also do the call for nominations. So if your term is up, you may nominate yourself, or you can have someone else nominate you as well. And then once we know how many positions and how many people are running, then we will discuss the election process in March. Okay, scheduling task force, we have Jason Steinitz and Steve Smith. It's going to be a quick update. I'll let whoever.
We are finally have a meeting scheduled, so that's a nice move for us that we've been able to get everybody together. So that is scheduled here in the next couple of weeks. We also had a phone call recently, last week actually, with Ad Astra to go through the data tunnel. So we are working with ITS to ensure that the Ad Astra has access to our scheduled data for them to use in the modeling. And that's it for our update.
Great, thank you. A lot of our task forces had meetings scheduled, and then Mother Nature had other plans. So we also had the College Placement Task Force was going to report, but they met yesterday at 3 p.m. So they are gathering their minutes to inform us at the next meeting. So the course scheduling task force fell under the same weather circumstances. Okay, so up next, we've been discussing guided pathways for several months, and there's been a listening tour, if you will, among the campuses on what SUNY Guided Pathways is amongst the academic roadmaps task force. So we are at the point that we need to decide whether or not we're going to apply for the PIF grant for the SUNY Guided Pathways. So before we discuss it, I'm going to need a motion. Nate Wallace. I'll let you be the motion. Yeah? All right, second, Jason Steinitz. Thank you. All right, so with that, I'm going to welcome our provost back to tell us his vision of what SUNY Guided Pathways means for SUNY Erie.
Yeah, actually, the PIF has actually already been awarded. I think Monroe is the lead campus on that. And as part of the PIFs through SUNY, the Performance Enhancement Funds, no. Anyway, Performance Improvement Funds, as part of these grants, as they developed and morphed, which was an odd process, but by the time they awarded funds, they then required, because they wanted all of these projects to be system-wide and scalable and replicable, not just a campus project. So what they then asked all of these various projects to do is create a community of practice of other campuses to engage around the topic that the PIF was funded. The majority of the funding went to the campus that was doing the project, but what they created was, and system administration required certain elements in this community of practice, which were regional meetings and so forth. The idea being that more than one campus would consider whatever the topic is and perhaps then benefit from this community of practice. And what it means really is each campus joining the community of practice would be awarded $20,000, which is a small amount of money compared to whatever the full funding was to the lead campus. But in essence, the $20,000 would support the campus's engagement in the topic, typically sending individuals or teams to these regional meetings. I think they had a nice word for them. But in essence, to share best practices, learn from each other, or there's also the possibility, if there was extra money, to use it to send an individual or a couple people to an actual national conference. You could basically use it for anything that would advance whatever the PIF topic was. Okay, that being said, if we were to apply to join this community of practice, the return is that they would award us $20,000, and as part of that, we would be able to / be required to send teams to a series of regional meetings on various topics, where in essence, and having been a member of 2 different communities of practice, one on online engagement and the other one on supportive scheduling. We were leading online engagement at Canton, and Alfred State was leading supportive scheduling. And so on that one, we were just one of the community of practice. So in essence, the opportunity here is some of us and some of you may have read some or all of the book on Guided Pathways. And in essence, Guided Pathways is a collection of best practices that supports students enrolling and retaining to graduation into programs at a particular college. The book, although it has 7 or 8 chapters, there are 4 key chapters, and let me try and remember. One is developmental education, one of them is supporting students, one of, it's been a while since I read the book over Christmas break, but there are 4 key kind of big ideas that they're calling the Guided Pathways model. But in reality, what it is it's a set of existing best practices that will help students come to college, engage, and more likely retain and graduate. Do you want to?
I know, I'm like whipping through my notes.
Oh, the 4 chapters? I should have brought the book with me.
I know.
So, but my thinking about if we were to engage in this community of practice is that we would send a team of the relevant people, depending upon obviously the developmental ed convening. It would be most meaningful to send folks, I could imagine, from English and math and or other areas that do developmental ed, to share their best practices, learn about what other SUNY, mostly community colleges, are doing, and so forth. So to send the key people to learn what other colleagues in SUNY are doing, then come back to our campus and really consider, so based on these best practices that are in the book or that Monroe is doing or whatever other campuses we engage with, which ones are we already doing? Or do we have it nailed? If we're happy with what we're doing, that's good, check. If it's something we want to enhance because of things that we learned, great. Well, then we have a conversation and we say, gee, they're doing it this way. Maybe we ought to pilot enhancing it in that way. And there may be some of those practices that we're not doing at all, and our team of folks might say, well, let's pilot doing something along that line or that portion of that guided pathway. But really what it is it's an opportunity to learn from our colleagues at other SUNY community colleges as they're implementing this variety of best practices. And then just come back and as colleagues discuss, are there things that we're already doing and they're good, things that we perhaps want to enhance, or things that we want to adapt or adopt. And there may be things that other folks are doing that we come back and say, this doesn't fit our context. And that's fine. There really is not an expectation on that. The idea is just to learn from this community of practice. And if we find that something is of value to do here, to decide to do it. And if not, we certainly are free to make that decision as well. Anything you want to add? Sorry.
No, I think that was well said. One of the main reasons I wanted to have Doug tell you about his vision for guided pathways is a lot of the information that we have received as an institution is the Monroe model, which is very intensive and very scary, right? So they've done wonderful things and we've learned a lot from them, but I think it's important for us as a body to know that that is not what we are trying to do. We're not trying to copy what Monroe's doing. And after Erica and I met with Doug a couple of times and with Dr. Clark, and I think with the vision that it's going to be whatever we make it as an institution, and our faculty, our staff, everyone here, it's what we want as a body and what it means for SUNY Erie. So so with that, so that's why I wanted him to talk about it, because it was like a breath of fresh air, and all of the different things I was nervous about personally were alleviated. So does anybody have any questions for our provost? All right, so with that, since there's no discussion and we have a motion on the floor, I'm going to ask us to vote. We're going to vote by voice. All those in favor, say yay. 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 Not in favor? Abstain? And the motion passes. So I already have a letter of endorsement. I have 2 copies with me. I'll give one to Doug and I'll give one to Dr. Clark. I don't know who's going to be passing things, but I have them ready. So the grant application is due, I think, Friday. So we're cutting it under the wire there. But so we will move forward as an institution to apply for the PIF grant. And again, it's just an application for the grant. We will find out later whether or not if we are accepted into the second cohort. So stay tuned. Okay, so we are at the end of old business. I know we have 2 people that have some old business that they would like to add to the agenda. It's a race. Whoever raises their hand first gets to talk first. All right. Deb Doucette would like to tell us a little bit about Middle States.
Okay, 2 things. I just wanted to update everyone on the Middle States. As I mentioned in our last Senate meeting, which I think was in December, the Middle States team decided that we were going to create an institutional effectiveness handbook. That will help us because, as we all know, we had an issue with standards 5 and 6. Standard 6 is institutional effectiveness. And what we're trying to do is create a useful book that is going to be something that folks are able to go to find out how we tick, basically. What do we do? What are our policies, our procedures? What's the process of whatever we have? So the way we thought about introducing this to the College Senate Assessment Task Force. So we're thinking we're going to go through the College Senate in tandem with the IPA as well, because we need the IPA to help us out with the current operational plans that we have, because so much has changed. What we've provided to, Colleen, if you could scroll down now, what we would like to provide to the task force is the table of contents. So as we looked through standards 5 and 6, the various criteria, these are the various topics that we need to talk about And what we're going to do is, it's not going to be a printed copy. It's actually going to live on the Nuventive website, because that's going to be the funnel of all of our assessment, institutional effectiveness information. And each one of those topics, as we move forward, will be a direct link to the verbiage about that topic, and then also links to the various documents as well. So what we're submitting to the task force is this, and we'll also go to the IPA with the same thing, but really more with dealing with the institutional effectiveness planning and such like that. And I'm not quite sure do I just submit it to you, or how does that work?
Well, so the assessment task force was formed and never met. So we need to call. We have members. I think the entire Middle States preparation took precedence over the assessment task force at that time. But we do have members. I believe Fabio is a co-chair.
I think Sabrina.
Sabrina, are you a co-chair? I forget off the top of my head. Okay, so. We'll have to notify that committee, maybe email Sabrina, myself, and Fabio, and we'll try to get the gang together.
Great. I mean, really what we're looking for is just input, making sure that we have what you guys need. And also, it's two-dimensional. It's proving to Middle States that we have a document and we have a set process and it's consistent. And all we need to do is just, if we have a question about what is the process, for example, with the task forces for Excel, then you can go there, as well as the SharePoint. It's going to probably just link you right to the SharePoint site, but there it is. The second thing I wanted to bring up is, as we all know, we have the monitoring report that is going to be due on October 1st. And we have set the goal of having the framework of the draft of the monitoring report done by the end of the spring semester. And as we think about, well, what are we going to do? What do we need to prove to Middle States? And again, it's standards 5, 6, and then we also have the 7 as well. 7, my understanding is the Board of Trustees is going to handle that one. We'll compile it together. But for 5 and 6, really, it's to prove that we've already, let me step back. We've already proven to them we have 100% compliance in program assessment and also with our units as well. So we downloaded, we gave them everything in Nuventive. We had everybody work like crazy, and again, we thank you so much for doing that. But we are now 100% compliance. Now we have a new year. We have 2018-19. So that means then for the programs, they need to make sure that they're following their assessment plan that is set up for this year, and then whatever their assessment-driven decisions and actions from this year's plan are documented in Nuventive, so that way we can again download those documents and prove to Middle States that we have 100% compliance. One of the things that we've been discussing is making sure that everyone does this, and we have to have all the faculty involved. It's not 1 or 2 people from each program. It's got to be all of the faculty, and everyone has to be in tandem with going forward with these actions. And College Day is going to now become more of a unit retreat, and we're discussing the setting aside of specific time for folks to review their assessment, make actions, document it, and prove that they have completed this cycle, at least for this year. Because remember, it's continuous. We have to continuously improve or show that we are doing assessment-driven actions for the intent of improvement of our quality of our programs. Secondly, Doug has come up with a wonderful idea with the resource allocation for the programming, and that's what we're going to be discussing in some upcoming meetings. But there is some resource allocation that's being discussed coming out of that College Day assessment portion. So the monitoring report, it's due, it's coming. We need to make sure that all of those pieces are actually put into place, and then we can prove to Middle States again, we no longer have any issues, and then we can move forward to our self-study that's due in a couple of years.
Perfect. Great. Thank you, Deb.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions about Middle States? Sabrina?
Well, it's not really a question, but I would just like to remind everybody, because this came up in discussion today, that we've mentioned this before, but I'm no longer like shepherding everybody towards assessment plans. The paper assessment plans are gone, but we all have the program competencies and we need to keep up with those. And we should be doing 25% of our program competencies per year, so that we have a 5-year cycle, so the 5th year is left for the program review, and we're still doing the program competency assessment. So we're in the process of setting up a system for you to be able to work through Nuventive to notify us. But if anyone is finished with some program competency assessments, send it right now. Just tell me about it so that the Academic Assessment Committee will look in Nuventive to be able to give you feedback for that. And I envision that I'm probably going to either be coming around or some member of that committee during College Day to talk to you more specifically about our new program competency assessment cycles.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Erickson.
Thank you, Colleen, through this impromptu. But I do want to actually parallel what was just said as well from a general education standpoint. As many of you know, at the end of our fall semester, we did see the approval of the SUNY Erie ILO rubrics, which again is a remarkable advancement forward in terms of our advancement with assessment and the uniform collection of data. Over the break, I was able to then build those rubrics into Nuventive, which will then be able to be accessed by faculty that are contributing to the assessment effort. As a reminder, in terms of the schedule, the communication, critical analysis and reasoning, information literacy, and quantitative reasoning ILOs are to be assessed this semester. I have talked with already some of the traditional units in this, but if you are looking to contribute to that assessment effort and want access to that Nuventive data tool to assist you in this, please email me. It's neelanse@ecc.edu. I know Colleen, you will send that out. I can give you access to that to help you in your assessment efforts. And so if there's any questions, please let me know.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else have any other old business they would like to address? Okay, so we're going to move on to new business. We have a resolution to commemorate the career and service of Rick Wachowski. Just pull that up. Okay. So the resolution to honor Richard Wachowski is the following. Whereas Richard Wachowski has tirelessly devoted the last 32 years of his professional life to SUNY Erie Community College and the success of the students of Erie County, and whereas Richard Wachowski served in an exemplary fashion as professor, department head, and teaching faculty member in mental health, substance abuse department from January 1985 to the present, and whereas Richard Wachowski served in exemplary fashion as Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs from December 2000 through June 2009. And whereas Richard Wachowski served in an exemplary fashion as Executive President of Academic Affairs from June 2009 through January 2017. And whereas Richard Wachowski served in an exemplary fashion as Provost and Executive Vice President from January 2017 through February 2019. Whereas Richard Wachowski, more than anyone else at SUNY Erie Community College, has provided the leadership, the credibility, the relationships, the institutional memory, and the hard work that have held SUNY Erie Community College together throughout the successes and challenges of the last several decades. Therefore be it resolved that the College Senate, which Rick was instrumental in creating and organizing, honor Richard Wachowski, Rick, for his work, his devotion, his accomplishments, and his heart. And further be it resolved that the College Senate supports the naming of the Board of Trustees room and Glainer Building as the Richard Wachowski Boardroom. Submitted to this esteemed body by the Executive Committee of the College Senate this day, February 12th, 2019. Derek. So moved. Can I have a second? Deb, thank you. Is there any discussion on the floor of our resolution? Okay. This is our second voting item of the day. And the motion is to accept the resolution commemorating the career and service of Rick Wachowski. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And the motion passes. Thank you very much. And thank you to Rick. Okay, so we have a few things left on the new business of the agenda. We have assessment of shared governance. My assessment people of shared governance are not here, so I will just give you a brief update of what we're doing with that. There is a rubric that has gone through SUNY, and it has also been vetted by the Faculty Council of Community Colleges, where we are trying to measure the shared governance at SUNY Erie Community College. So far, the Senate executive team has gone through the rubric and answered the questions, and we've discussed it. And what we're going to be doing moving forward is we're going to send it out via email to the college senate and senators, voting, non-voting, anyone that is a liaison. Those of you that attend, we're going to send it to you, but then we're also going to send it out to the college community to get a feel for what the college feels, what we do with shared governance, and then we're going to take those assessment results and compare and contrast and have some conversations. We have actually never done a formal assessment of the College Senate, and with our new work with Middle States, we're going to try to move forward with that. And I think we're going to get a spot on Nuventive. So, yay, we're not there yet. One more step to be official. So that's something to look forward to. I believe we're going to send it out after the February break, and I have to work with Fabio on when exactly we're going to send that out so that it doesn't interfere with any other surveys or assessment that is going out to faculty and staff. Two little pieces. This was done in the Senate Executive Committee test, but we like to make sure we memorialize any decisions that are made at the Senate Executive Committee, but the AIM Task Force, so that's our affordable instructional materials, is replacing Ryan Grimmer with Justin Cronus from the library. Thank you, Ryan, for your service. Ryan has been instrumental in setting up the library webpage and making it easy for faculty and staff to find affordable instructional materials, but he has a whole new project that he's working on now, so he's going to pass the baton to Justin, and we can call him if we need him. So thank you, Ryan. And we also have an academic standards Senate appointment. Right now it's Donna Fiorelli from Humanities at South Campus. And again, as we discussed earlier during Jim and Joanne's report, if there is anyone else, Senate or non-senators, that would like to represent the interests of the Senate at the Academic Standards Committee, please email me, and we'll talk about having you become a Senate appointment. Okay. I didn't really give you a heads up on this, Penny.
Not paper. No more paper.
No paper, but as many of us know in the college community, that we are going about looking for a master plan and academic plan. JMZ is looking for information from us. What do we feel needs to be done in the college? Pedagogy first. So not food in the cafeteria, you know, not vending machines, things like that, but what will make us better teachers, what will help our students in the classroom better. So one of the discussions we were having recently was with, I'm going to talk about it again because I'm super jealous actually, but Dave Uzinski from Math at City Campus was able to work with CITS to redevelop a computer lab. So it is student-friendly, teacher-friendly, pedagogy first, and it's an amazing teaching classroom. So it's things like that that JMZ is really interested in hearing from us, the people that work here in and out every day with students, what could make you a better teacher and what can help your students learn better. So we're looking for brainstorming. If you have an idea right now, you can jump in, or if this is getting some ideas, I know when I'm asked to brainstorm, I can never think of anything, and then I'm driving in my car, and I have a million ideas. So if that is you, you can email me, you can email Penny, and let us know what you think. So JMZ wants to hear from us because it's us that makes the decision. That report will be based on what we give them. So if we don't give them any information, then the report isn't going to reflect what we feel we need. Penny, would you like to add anything?
You did a lovely job.
I was trying to remember all the different things you said, and I have like my little notebook up here. So we are meeting on March 7th. So if you could get the information by, let's say, like the 4th or 5th, not on the 7th, please, and email us. Doug?
Just real quick, what is the JMZ?
JMZ is a company that we did the bid. I'm like, you gotta talk on the microphone.
So JMZ is the company that won the lead role in our comprehensive academic and facilities master plan rework. They've already started the work. We've given them a lot of data, a lot of reports. They were actually here in 13-14 and did the last smaller version that we did, so they're very comfortable and familiar with the school. But particularly as we have really kind of changed direction in the last 1 to 2 years, we really wanted something very comprehensive and very interconnected. So not only just our facilities, but what does our programming look like? What does it need to look like? How does that then inform and feed how we look at our facilities infrastructure? So that's really what it is. So over the course of the next 18 months, they will be doing a lot of meetings with us as an institution, with the community, with our students, reviewing our data, putting out iterations of this. We have a steering committee that is comprised of about 300, it's a 360-degree segment of the institution, so it covers a lot of people. And we can share who is on that, so if you guys do have things that you want to talk about or share, you can do it through this committee. But this is going to help guide us for the next roughly 10 years. We don't tend to try to get too much further than that these days because things change so fast. But it helps us have a direction of where we want to head as an institution within the community that we live in for our students and for our position in the state.
Doug?
So I had some people come into the 2 offices that I have, and they were just asking architectural information. Would that be relating to that?
Yes. So the first thing that they do is they try to get a feel for what all the spaces are right now at the institution. We gave them data, but it wasn't as current as it needed to be, which is why you saw them the other week coming through and trying to finalize that.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions about the JMZ steering committee? Any ideas that you are just bursting to share? All right, if you're bursting in your car late, oh, Catherine?
I would like to see a few more priorities given to students' shared spaces and availability of spaces for students when they're outside of classes to have learning areas that are discipline specific and also collaborative between both places.
Thank you. Anything else? Doug?
To touch on that with like collaborative space and stuff, we have the Maker Lab in the library, and I know that it's kind of like locked up without permission and whatnot. There's a lot of other schools that I've been to that it's way more intensive. It's not just 1 or 2 3D printers, it's got a lot of stuff, green screens included, and I think that helps with the collaborative space, being that you don't have to ask permission to go in there, just groups of students could go in there. So I think that's just my opinion, that I would agree with something like that. The makerspace is the initiation of space that is collaborative. So.
Great. Thank you. Penny?
I just wanted to ensure we are building communications about this project as it goes along to try to ensure that the campus knows when they will be here, when there's an opportunity for them to have a voice and input into the conversations. So even if you don't attend a meeting, if you've got ideas, please make sure that you're getting them to the people, because we are really, what we're finding are these themes as we go through this. We're finding it also, Doug and I have been doing budget hearings for the last 2 days. We're seeing these themes come out in the unit budget hearings. So it's really good to get as much feedback as possible on this. So please don't be shy. Nothing is off the table here at the beginning as we throw everything and see what sticks to the wall.
Okay. John Dana?
You mentioned a date or 2 dates. What are they?
If you could get us the information by, say, Monday the 4th of March.
Thank you.
Derek, you had your hand up?
You know, we should have a space for the adjuncts to hang their hat. And I think that should be part of this as well.
Thank you. Joanne?
Penny, are they still looking at having campuses focused on certain academic areas?
It is one of the things that they had looked at before and that they were thinking they would look at again. I think some of it's going to depend on how adamant we are about how we want things to be structured. But I imagine there will be some proposals in there for efficiency's sake, for those kinds of things. Some may make more sense than others. But again, that's why we have to be so involved in this process, is because what they build, they need to build for us and what we think strategically we should be doing.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Greg?
I was chair of facilities, and we constantly look at space for adjuncts. Just be aware that we have well over 1,000 adjuncts. And I don't know how you can assign space to each one.
Okay. Doug? Or Derek?
And I would suggest shared space. That's just much more efficient. So you could have, you know, a file cabinet, a desk, and you just take the desk that's available, maybe move the file cabinet to it if that's what you need. But the point is, it's rare that we have that many adjuncts on campus at the same time because they're usually teaching. But they ought to have, there's a whole variety of things. They ought to have a place they can hang their hat, they can leave their exams, they can have a cup of coffee, they can sit on a couch, they can have a conversation with a student in private, that there be someone at arm's length that it could maybe inform them about how this place works so they're not wandering around on their own. There's a variety of things that we could do. The adjuncts right now are teaching 40% of our courses in my department. I think we've got about 3 spaces, 3 seats where they could sit, and it's just, it's not very inviting. They're our colleagues. We should treat them better, I think.
Thank you. John?
Any looking into the possibility of granting office hours for our part-time people? Because they do a lot of advisement that way. I know it means money, but they do more than just teach and hit and run.
Well, office hours for adjuncts is right now a personal decision for them because that is a labor issue, which is outside of the realm of the College Senate. But most certainly, if adjuncts want to use space to meet with students, they're more than welcome to. Okay, so with that, email myself, email Penny, you can email Doug, give us your ideas, and as Penny said, nothing is off the table. Give us your biggest, your brightest, give us your everything. And let's shoot for the moon, okay? So I put this last agenda item on because I did it in December and nobody participated. But I'm gonna do it again because I like the ring of it. So I feel that sometimes with new business, maybe we have something we want to discuss, and there's been many times we've stopped the meeting and we're done for the day, and people will come up and talk to me afterwards, which is great, and I totally encourage that. But I feel that sometimes people don't feel that they have space within the meeting to bring up any concerns that they may have from their divisions or their departments. So I'm going to keep for the good of the order on there so that we have a designated space for anybody to bring up anything that they feel is important for the College Senate to consider. So for the good of the order, is there anything anybody would like to share with the College Senate? I'll go for, oh, yes, good, Mary.
I kind of touched on this earlier, but I have a concern about students with special needs. Basically my understanding, and maybe I'm understanding it incorrectly, is I get a notification specifically from the student that says I've got a special need, and I make an announcement to the class. So for instance, if the student needs somebody to take notes. And then after that, I hear nothing back. I get no feedback. I might have students volunteer that they're going to do it, and then I find out in 3 or 4 weeks that they never followed through. I just think, and then at 2 or 3, 4 weeks later, for that student, it might be too late. So my concern is that we have to have a better system of communication about these needs, whether it's directly with the Office of Student Services, and I know there's all kinds of HIPAA and FERPA stuff going on here, but I think there's a breakdown in communication so that we are making sure that the students' needs are actually being met and not relying necessarily on the student to tell us one way or the other, because maybe one of the students' problems is being able to focus on that kind of a thing, like if it's an ADHD kind of a thing or whatever. So I want to bring that up because I've had a couple, 3 students in my history where they've gotten so far behind we couldn't get them out. And that's because I was not advised that their needs weren't being met. So I just want to bring that up as something we can maybe look into.
Definitely, thank you. Dana?
Yeah, I'm the TA for student access at the North Campus. I don't know what campus you teach at. And when we're always at the mercy of student note takers who independently contract. If you don't hear about it, it's usually a good thing. It means that everything's working the way it's supposed to. Students have the option of confidentiality. So if that's the case, they drop the notes off at the student access office, and then the student receiving notes picks them up, hopefully not at the same time that they're being dropped off. It always works in our favor if students suspend confidentiality because they can do it student to student. It can be as casual as taking a picture and sending the notes in a text or anything like that. But I will tell you this, we're probably one of the most under-resourced departments in the college. We have 600 students we serve here with 3 people and a test room with 12 seats, okay? During final exams, I have to try to arrange for auxiliary computer labs and somebody to proctor them with other students. We have hundreds upon hundreds of students testing in our facility. Our test room at finals and midterms, and frankly, there's students who come in and say, you know, I'm better off taking it in the classroom because it's like a can of sardines in here. Now, they have a better facility at South. They have a better facility at City. North, we're embedded in the counseling suite, which is kind of marginally not up to code. I can barely get students in wheelchairs in my office, in my test room. But I would say if you're having a problem and you're concerned about the student, have a conversation with the students. Once students disclose, it's on the table, okay? So it's on the table. You're not violating anything, okay? And it's like we have this discussion about our students all the time in meetings. You know, it's a fine line balancing confidentiality. And I always say, do you think there are people in the classes that realize that certain students are never there on test day, but they're passing the class with flying colors? We're asking them to be critical thinkers, right? So, you know, hopefully they figured it out. But yeah, you try to take the path of caution when it comes to confidentiality, but once they disclose to you, you can have an open access discussion with them about it. And we appreciate all the help. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Okay. Anybody else? Justine?
I'm not sure if this is the correct venue to ask this question or not, but I thought I'd bring it up. One of the things that we've come across with advising students or even just talking with students from a teaching standpoint and going over grades and things such as that is the FERPA regulations in regards to those that sign off to allow for their parent or whomever to have that information released to them. And I've just found that, at least I'm not aware of any specific location we can go to see if a form in fact was signed off, was in fact filled out, and and if there isn't a place for that, it might be something worth discussing, seeing if there is a place that everyone on, you know, who is involved in teaching or advising could access to confirm that in fact we can release this information to such and such a person.
Thank you. That's a very good point. I don't have an answer for that. Does anyone know if there is a place where that information is housed? Doug?
Only with like relation to orientation and stuff, anytime that we talk to students about wanting to utilize those forms, I'm pretty sure we submit them through admissions. I don't know if there's anywhere that that gets held afterwards or whatnot, but at least that's where we drop off the forms, I believe.
Okay, great. Deb?
I think in the past, I think registration has a copy of it, and I think I've gotten approval through them to see if it was on file.
I would ditto that. Paul Lamanna would know for sure. I would assume it would be in the Image Now.
Image Now. Okay. I will verify. I'll call Paul and double check on that too for you. Thank you. Justine?
I do know that financial aid has a separate one that floats around out there somewhere. But when looking in Image Now in the past, at least, I hadn't seen, and it could have just been that this was a particular case, but I have not ever seen a FERPA form in there that was easily accessible where I could click on it and open it and confirm. So it could be one of two issues, either that it's not really in that particular location, or perhaps that the advisors or faculty just don't have access to that.
Catherine?
A request for some integration with Starfish. An appropriate location for that would be in Starfish. And I also think that anyone who's listed as a student advisor should have access to the expanded file for that student. So I keep getting emails about students that are going into tutoring, and it doesn't express which tutoring they're going for or anything of that nature. And so I have no way of knowing what that student is doing above and beyond the classroom unless I ask my department chair, which we're in office, so it's okay, but it's just one more step that keeps me from being able to engage with that student and help them if they're in need of assistance.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, sorry. Pam.
That's okay. I do advisement for general studies, and a lot of students get frustrated when they don't know what they want to do and might want to take a baking or childcare or a class in a certain area, but they're restricted for majors only. And I didn't know if there's any way we could, fix that so they could dabble in different areas or different majors.
I'm not sure, but that's definitely something that we could also look into too. And I think that's also something that could be part of a discussion with our academic master plan as well. I'm just writing that down. Paul Lamanna is not here, not that I'm calling him out on it, but he did want me to announce for the good of the order that graduation applications are online. So there's no more paper applications. They are online. And information will be coming out further, but yay, online. Yay. No paper, saving trees. So yeah, the registrar's office will be sending out additional information, but students will have to apply online for graduation for this coming May. Does anybody have anything else? Justine? Don't be sorry.
I just had one other piece to bring up that adjunct faculty have expressed some frustration with the lag in pay for going for a month, some folks a month, a little longer than a month of teaching before they receive any form of pay at the institution, and it's causing quite a bit of disruption, in their lives to be able to afford to just drive out to a campus without gas money or things like that. So, just wanted to bring that up. That is a kind of a hot topic right now, at least in at South Campus.
Thank you, Derek.
Just a question regarding the graduation applications. Is it going to be possible for us to take a look at them and so we can monitor who's actually applied and who hasn't gotten around to getting started to think about filling that application out yet?
Maybe. No, I'm not sure, to be honest. If Paul was here, I would be directing that question to him. I'm thinking that if you're an advisor and it's your student or it's a student in your major, you should be able to have that information. And he is going to be sending out an email with more explicit information, directions, and all of that stuff coming soon, I believe after the February break. All right. So with no other items, just double checking. Then with that, I'm going to call our meeting over. Our next meeting is on, let's see, March, actually I think it's the same day, yeah. March 12th, 2 days before Pi Day, and we'll see you then. Thank you everybody so much for all of your contributions.